well and fine. It sounds really, really awesome. But what about, like we talked about the abusive relationships.
Yeah.
So how does that work in that sort of?
Easy, because you're an enabler. When someone is abusive, your action is you allow it. And they know they can get away with it. And that becomes the dynamic. Every action has an opposite equal reaction. If you abuse me and I say to you, don't talk to me like that, Slan, that hurt my feeling. And you go, well, I don't care. I just pretty much told you that I'm weak. You can get away with it. And then you go, he's a whinger, but I'm not taking him seriously. He's just a whinger and he's pleading to me and I've got the power.
Right.
See, that's the action reaction. It doesn't matter that I actually said to you, I don't want you to treat me that way.
Yeah.
My energy was, please, you've got the power over me. Use it wisely. Did you get it?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So then, okay.
Also, I need to express some serious compassion for domestic violence situations where someone's in legitimate danger, right? In those situations, there was a long period of desensitization to abuse where that other person kept scaling up the violence and the abuse, right? So you can make an argument that early on, if that person was not so desensitized to abuse, they could have picked up on it and just not got into the relationship in the first place or got manipulated, right? Yeah. But also, it doesn't matter. If someone's in that situation, they're in danger, then the action reaction is this. I can't escape. He's too powerful. Or she's too powerful. I don't want to be sexist. Or they are too powerful. Yeah. Right? And I just have to just be nice and kind and hope that they will have pity over me, not want to hurt me today. Right?
Right.
So what's happening is my action is saying there is no way to get out.
Yeah.
And therefore I don't look. And therefore I don't find.
What is the underlying feeling though? Disempowerment, lack of self-worth. So they need to fix that.
Yeah. And also that I live in a world where there are no options to truly give me what I deeply deserve, which is safety.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there are no options. Cops can't help me because they've got so much red tape that person will just pick me off in between the red tape and I'm gone, you know? So what good is it that, okay, fine, they might jail him or he might even get away with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But blah, blah. Like all this kind of thinking of the law is too slow, cops are too slow, it takes...
I can't find anyone better. There's nobody else who likes me.
Yeah, no one understands how dangerous he is, like that kind of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Now, you rob yourself of the creativity and the strategic things you can do to escape. Right? Because you're not looking for it because you think none of it is relevant and none of it will help you.
Right.
Right? So you don't look. So therefore, you live in a world where you think you being caged in a violent, domestic, abusive relationship is so absolute for you, you surrender into it being absolute in your actions of submissiveness and lack of resourcefulness, lack of looking for ways to know you deserve better that you can access and escape.
Wow, it's explained to me really well. Now I'm coming to terms with this. That opposites. What do you call it again? The
opposite equal reaction.
Opposite equal reaction.
Yeah,
it's so interesting because coming back to that, I just had to add one more thing because I know someone who's in this relationship, and it's like you said, when someone is being threatened with a knife, you run. You don't care about, your own personal development. You don't care about your creativity. All you do is you're trying to escape that person.
Exactly.
And so this person has to walk on eggshells because, that partner is just so abusive that they stifle their own growth, their own creativity out of fear, just plain fear. And it's like that pain that I had in my tummy. All you can focus on is that pain and that fear, and it just stifles you. Everything just stops. So imagine if you're a great like a musician, all of that goes to hell because you're so scared. And is it my place to talk to that person? You know,
It's
yeah,
I mean, you want to hold the space for them, let them know that they're loved and that there is a way, and that they have to just have hope and believe and want to look, you know, just one step at a time. But, you know, a lot of the violence is not the actual power. It's the making you believe you're powerless.
It's the spiritual torment.
It's the psychological manipulation that makes you believe that you are helpless. That is the true, that's where the damage is done.
Yeah.
You see, if I can make you believe that you have no options, so you don't look or pursue those options, you're my slave.
Yeah, slave. You chop the person's leg off.
Exactly.
You have to lean
now,
on
I don't have to be violent towards you that often because you're just jumping to my tune.
Yeah.
And I own you. And you think you might hate me and be resentful, you know, and all that, but your life is fear-based. Your smile, your act of kindness, you end up creating a very sick type of relationship with someone because you hate them, resent them. You probably fantasize killing them to be free of them, but you have to be kind to them just to keep them from hurting you.
Yeah, and it's so sad when this person told me that my fantasy is for this person to die.
So they can escape.
So they can escape.
Yeah.
Can you imagine living a life like that? I mean, my heart goes out to all the people who are in these relationships and just get help. You know, I mean, there's so many. I mean, in Australia, there's a lot of help that you can get.
Yeah.
You know, with the helplines and all that.
I really like how women get together in those domestic violence support groups and they even have refuge. Because I think when you're around a lot of women who escaped and they believed in themselves in the end, I reckon a woman being surrounded by that environment to restore hope and learn strategies and learn what happened and also validation and compassion. Because it's easy to overtrust someone and before you know it, you're completely psychologically manipulated into such a compromised state that it's almost like
a spiral.
It's like the frog in the boiling water. Like each degree of psychological manipulation doesn't seem like much, but over time, your brain got wired into submission where the boiling water, you can't escape the boiling water anymore. So you got to have so much compassion for them and they've got to have compassion for themselves because there's so much shame. It's like, why did I allow this to happen to me? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, we are so fallible. Like our brain is so gullible and learning to be balanced and to you know, being human is not for the faint-hearted, right?
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is you're trying to be available and vulnerable enough to let people in, but you also have to have enough boundaries to not let the wrong people or the wrong behavior become toxic within your boundaries when they breach your boundaries. And so that's a learning. That's a work in progress. And when you've been raised in an abusive household yourself, your brain never got wired to have that perspective. So you're easily blindsided. And so I think a lot of these people, the first healing steps are to know how normal it is to get manipulated from overtrust and how their coping was already conditioned into them from what they observed around them when they were younger. And so once they feel normal for their situation, then they can be introduced to new ideas that their heart yearns for that makes more sense, which is they deserve better, they're powerful, they can be creative, they could create a meaningful life outside of the clutches of a very weak person who, once you see properly that person, their pain, why they abuse, and you lose the fear, it's actually a different dynamic then. Because now you will call the cops if they do anything with you. And you will be clever and strategic and get away from them. And none of their threats touch you anymore. And then they realize they're powerless.
They are powerless.
They're powerless. And then they're going to chase somewhere else to feel powerful because they're not going to hang around something where they feel powerless anymore.
Right. The only twist to this story is this person's actually a guy, and he's even more embarrassed by that fact that he's a guy.
That's a
and it's a lot. I mean, if you notice,
another layer, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a completely different layer, and it's so like, I don't know your history, but I think, you know, for Asian families, even in my circle of friends, you're starting to see this I wouldn't say switch in dominance, but, you know, guys
have been emasculated a lot in our culture.
And I'm not saying you have to be Andrew Tate and you know, believe in what he believes in, but there are a lot of, you'll be surprised, there's a lot of domestic violence, especially. I'm not talking physical, I'm talking the mental stuff, which is even worse, the psychological warfare between, you know, the husbands and the wives, and the husbands suffer, and then they speak to other husbands who they think are going through the same thing, and they'll say, hey man, you know, I feel so embarrassed, you know, and then, you know, it's so interesting. And yeah, this person is almost like house arrest.
Yeah, I knew someone who was in that situation. And
it's interesting.
It's very complicated because it's like...
And he's afraid to ask for help because he's a man.
I know.
So then what do you do?
I know. And here's the thing, right? It's like asking for help is being resourceful. No one in their power can ever get anywhere without being resourceful. Leverage any momentum like the law to hold anything accountable that's breaching the rules of you deserving to be safe. It's the mechanics of being wise, leveraging momentum. The police force has got the momentum of knowing what's right and wrong to keep people's bodies safe from harm from other people.
Right.
And maybe some level of financial, but not so much. Like maybe just basic stealing, right?
Yep.
But the fraud is a bit complicated, and cops, it's out of my, it's above my pay grade.
There's a whole separate topic.
Yeah, exactly. But when someone feels weak for not being helped, it's because there's the, I don't want to call it toxic masculinity. I want to call it toxic positivity.
Oh.
Because there's toxic positivity and there's toxic negativity.
Right.
Right. And that's where we go all in on needing to think that we're all powerful. We have to have all the answers. And therefore it's shameful that we didn't to get out of a situation. That's toxic positivity. That's saying I'm supposed to have it all and be extremely positive and not let anything negative touch me. That's toxic positivity. Because, you know, it's funny, full circle, we talk about me being this, I want to be a centrist generally, you know, as a work in progress. It's like, what is the middle where I can take what's negative and then use what's positive to help me navigate through it.
Right.
So you need your left and your right hand, right, kind of thing. No offense to the one-handed people.
Don't go there, man.
Well, you've been going there. Every time we say that, we go, oh, we've excluded someone on the planet. Damn it. We need a disclaimer to say we're kind and we're nice people. That's the world we're in now. Too many people going, oh, did he just exclude me?
Yeah.
No, seriously. We need a light heart, don't we?
Yeah, for sure.
So we need to take the piss out of ourselves
every time
in these conversations. But yeah, so I think that person, I'm talking indirectly to them right now, wink, wink.
No.
Right? You deserve better, and don't let any kind of loaded assumptions about you needing to justify being isolated and under-resourced because you're supposed to be the mountain that solves all your problems. You can interview anybody in any profession who's achieved anything of substance, and you will realize they never ever let what they didn't know or their stuckness stay. They immediately leverage other people with lived experience and with power or whatever kind of resource that then helped them get to where they wanted to get to. So consolidate, back yourself, be clever, be strategic, use every level of advantage. For example, if someone's physically, hurting you, use the law. If someone is psychologically manipulating you, use therapists and others to help you become so aware that you start to build your internal, that awareness builds internal
Yeah.
understanding. And as soon as you see someone trying to manipulate you and you're seeing it in real time, they lose the power because you
Yes.
see it for what it is.
Yes.
Right?
And calling it out as well. So.
Exactly. So use therapists for the psychological abuse. Use a lawyer for financial manipulation in a situation if they're trying to control you
Yeah.
out of your fund. Like, just leverage wherever the problem is, whatever scaffolding of support that is being built for you to use as a genuine resource. Be resourceful. Be proud of being resourceful because powerful people are resourceful.
So interesting as well. This person is rich, so I think it'd be easy for them to get a therapist. But there are some of my friends who are not, and they're going through this. And like you say, if you're resourceful, go to your parents, seek funding from them, and just go through that 5 or 6 sessions, and sometimes leverage your Medicare. I mean, in Australia, you have you can have 6 sessions for free.
Yeah.
So even at work, there's employee assistance programs. There's all sorts of stuff that you can leverage as well. Just find a way to, like you said, detach from that perception, because it's really poisonous, isn't it? Once you start believing in those false assumptions, you just get deeper and deeper into the spiral where you believe, and it just gets worse and worse. So yeah, get that help that you need. And it was. How did we get to this conversation?
This has become a mental health
Yeah,
hotline.
that's right. How is that? How did it come here, man? So no, it was.
Get help.
What were we talking about? We were talking about opposite reaction.
We went from opposite equal reaction. And I think it's because often
Yeah.
people think, but are you saying that I'm responsible for everything that happens to me? That's why that triggered you going, yeah, but what about those situations where surely you didn't bring on abuse?
Yeah.
And then I immediately picked up on where you were going with that. And we ended up in this rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing to show that just because you're attracting something accidentally based on how you were being doesn't mean you deserve it. That's a very different thing. You have to audit and be responsible for what you're broadcasting, because you could be attracting levels of manipulation and abuse simply because you're choosing to stay naive. You see, we can never stop bad things happening to us, but we have to be responsible for the patterns of bad things. If it becomes a pattern, that's on you. The first time, second time, before you realize it's a pattern, you know what? Cop it on the chin. It's called being human.
It's like that saying from George Bush, shame on you, shame on me. I forgot what it was. Happens twice, shame on... Anyway, he stuffed that up. Worse than I can imagine. But, I mean, worse than I can recall it. But yeah, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Can I ask, out of your 25,000 hours, what was the main reason why people go to you? Is it career change? What are the main, I mean, I don't even know if you can disclose this, but like, what is the main?
In hindsight, in hindsight, when I look back at, the last 15 years, more specifically, I would say it's relationships.
Really?
Yes.
Wait. As in,
all relationships. So it's relationships around roles of partner, parenting, and work colleagues, being a manager, having a business and having staff. Like, it's all about relationships, because relationships, I love saying this, relationships are the glue to quality experiences.
Right. Oh, you got that one line.
But they are.
Yeah.
But aren't they?
Yes.
We're not even the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And so most people will come to me for relationships outside of them. Some of them will be aware that too much self-loathing, self-esteem, so they come for the relationship with themselves. They want to be kinder and believe in themselves and be confident. But everybody ends up going home to how they are treating themselves and why, because that's the foundation. So you said to me, why do people come to you? It's like they want to feel connected. Yeah. They want to feel like they matter. They want to feel like they're in a sustainable value exchange where they matter and to other people, and other people want to matter to them. It's not rocket science. It's relationship science.
Right. And when they come to you, is it triggered? Like for me, I came to you because it was triggered by a massive event in my life.
Yeah, often something pushes you too far.
Or pushes, okay.
Yeah. And where things have just, it's either a perfect storm where too many things have gone wrong and it just tipped you over the edge and you're trying to reclaim balance and there's too much trauma that happened from that perfect storm, or something just slowly just got worse and worse to the point where you wake up and you've had enough.
The tipping point.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm so glad, that things turned out the way it did. You know, it's such an interesting thing when you think about your own personal development and you know, and how important it is. You know, that relationship with yourself bit it solves everything if you really put time into it. You know.
Yeah. But you know, this is a game of, if I'm stuck, there's a good chance that my perception is distorted into
yes,
toxic positivity and toxic negativity. And so whenever I audit anyone, it's like an audit, and I say that because that's a fractal.
yes.
Because the whole point of an audit is you suspend judgment, you critically think, you collect the data and then you try to see patterns of fraud, exploitation. Well, what are we doing? We're finding you're defrauding yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're believing things about yourself that are so not true based on flawed data. You've drawn conclusions and so
based on limited experience, like one scenario, and you just drew a conclusion and then you made that your identity.
Yeah, or because you don't see how you are being that attracts something.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of consistent data that's pattern. You know, it's a pattern, so it's not a one-off. And so your brain goes, "See, I told you this is reality. This is just how it is. It sucks, right?" and so you are conditioned into that resolve, right? That's how it is, because you don't see how complicit you were.
Yeah.
In not only allowing it to happen, but to continue it to happen.
You just reminded me of my pet peeve.
What's your pet peeve?
I told this to my wife one day. I was like, I hate it when people say that it's because of how I grew up. This is just the way it is because of how I grew up. This is just the way it is because...
Oh, yeah, they lock themselves into an identity with their past, as if their past is them.
That's right. And it really triggers me. Like, this is how I was raised. Well, tomorrow, you know, it bears no like the past has no bearings on what it can be like tomorrow. You can just make a decision and go, just say, I'm rude because I was raised this way. And then you just put this dead end, and that really pisses me off. When I hear that, every now and then, you know, from other people as well, I can't change that. That's how my mom did that, my brother did that, and then they just close, and then I just close. And the moment they say that, I know, okay, this person's not willing to change.
You're so judgy.
No, I mean, why would you spend...
Aslan, you're so judgy.
I mean, it's such a not a brain drain, but it's emotionally draining, because it's like when someone's made up their mind about sushi. I don't know why I feel like having sushi. Yeah. But let's just say someone says, I don't want to have sushi because...
You miss salmonella?
Yeah.
Haven't you found it?
I know.
I'm kidding. I love sushi too.
They were like, oh, you know, raw fish because of the radio. And then they'll give you 10,000 reasons why sushi is bad. And there's no point. And it's this uphill battle. So what I like to do is I like to imagine myself on this little boat. I'm going uphill, talking to this person. And then I make a conscious decision in my mind to turn around and let the oars go. And just... Let the wave just take me down this stream, and I'm just having a good time. I don't want to fight the stream.
Yeah. And so look, often when I'm in that situation where someone's defending the indefensible. Yeah. I ask questions. I just ask questions. I go, so you saying that you can't change the way you are being in that situation because you've always been that way? Are you saying that if you're in a habit, you can't break it?
Well, what are you saying in a passive-aggressive way?
No, but unless the way they were being was hurting me, no, for sure, I'd have a bit of sting.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
In my facilitation.
Yeah.
But if I'm seeing someone defend their limitations so illogically, while they're in pain, it's really important to slow it down, Aslan, and not judge, because judgment already triggers them into shutting down further, right? Because the whole point here is, can they be safe in being wrong? because they don't think they're safe in being wrong. So our job is to make them safe in being wrong about anything. It's like even the work we did together, my job was to earn your trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't be on some bullshit high horse.
Yeah, pedestal.
Making out as if, Aslan, let me coach you to becoming as good as me. It's like, what a shitty thing to even believe is true. I always see clients as they are just fellow souls with me on a journey, and we're just using systems to reclaim our power. And so I love doing it. So, I'm going to hold the space for you and introduce you to concepts for you to play with to discover more and more of how powerful you are. So when you meet someone at a barbecue or something and they start talking about things in a way that's, very limited, I play the long game there. I just plant seeds. So you're saying this, but how would you explain that? How are you saying this, but how would you explain that? And so I use the fractals where things don't work the way they are insisting they do. And you watch their brain not know how to fit it in. And confusion is our friend. I say this a lot because when a brain is confused, it quickly realizes that everything it thought was absolute is no longer absolute, and it has to update itself. So it goes searching. So humility is restored, curiosity is restored. It can finally find things it never found before. So your job is just to confuse people.
I can do that. That's easy.
Maybe we should get business cards done called "I'm a confusion agent."
Confusion specialist. No, that's really interesting, because the funny thing is your approach is completely different to mine, because I'm more of all right, I'm done. I'm not gonna engage this person. This person thinks that sushi is bad. I'm not gonna, well, no matter what I say, it's not gonna, but I never think about, okay, should I ask this person a question? I never, because to me, maybe because of my lack of experience, that to me that sounds like uphill paddling. But I guess if you ask a question in a neutral way without being passive aggressive, then it can be, like you said, insightful for the person, because sometimes, like, with enough confusion, it will trigger transformation.
Yeah.
But it takes skill.
At some point,